Today, archaeologists scour the world in search of artifacts that tell them about the past. But did you know that people have been doing this pretty much forever? Here are 7 times ancient people found even older artifacts from before their time. Number 1. The Aztec Great Temple of Tenochtitlan in Mexico City. At the time of contact with Spanish conquistadors a little after 1500 CE, the Aztec Empire was filled with grand cities and pyramids. But Central American cultures had been building pyramids and monuments for over 2,000 years before then, a point which was not lost to the Aztecs. When the Grand Temple was built in the 1300s, its founders buried beautiful stone masks that came from previously dominant sites and cultures, like Teotihuacan and the Olmecs. While they're hard to date exactly, the Teotihuacan mask could be from around 300 CE, and the Olmec mask could be from around 700 BCE, meaning that the masks were much more ancient to the Aztecs than the Aztecs are to us today. The Aztecs probably wanted to depict themselves as the successors to these societies, so they clearly had an appreciation of those who came before. Number 2. Ennigaldi-Nanna's Museum in modern Iraq. The last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire, Nebonidus, is sometimes called the first archaeologist. During his reign in the mid-6th century BCE, he excavated old temples to restore them to their former glory and sometimes found cool artifacts. His daughter, Ennigaldi-Nanna, curated these finds in a temple next to where she lived. When modern archaeologists excavated the temple, they found several dozen neatly arranged artifacts of different ages, all older than the temple itself. Next to the artifacts were clay cylinders with descriptions in 3 languages thought to be museum labels. It seems pretty clear that this was the first museum. Some items, like a statue of King Shulgi, were from the 21st century BCE, about 1500 years before Ennigaldi, and a similar length of time to seeing late Roman artifacts in a museum today. Number 3. Qesem Cave, Israel. How long have people appreciated the past? Possibly before we were even formally people. At Qesem Cave in Israel, dated to about 200 to 400,000 years ago, archaeologists found 12 Acheulean hand axes among some 21,000 other artifacts. The other artifacts seem to be made out of a different rock and do not fit onto the hand axes, suggesting that the hand axes were neither made nor altered in the cave and were instead brought there in their current form. While Qesem Cave is old, Acheulean hand axes are even older. The oldest Acheulean hand axes were made in Africa 1.75 million years ago, and they were made continuously up until about the time of Qesem Cave. While it is possible that people were still making them then, the fact that there are so few of them and that they weren't reused suggests that they were collected and brought home as sort of cool vintage finds. Not to mention that this was way before our species even existed. So this was probably Homo heidelbergensis or even Neanderthals appreciating the past. Number 4. Thunderstones. Speaking of hand axes, from ancient Rome to the early modern period, people thought that Paleolithic hand axes and later Neolithic axes had magical properties. In this case, people found Stone Age axes but did not realize their antiquity. Instead, they thought they were natural rocks found where lightning strikes during a thunderstorm. By burying these thunderstones under their doorsteps, their house would be protected because lightning doesn't strike twice, so to speak. In addition to houses, they were placed in important buildings like barracks and temples. The Greeks added inscriptions to small axes and wore them as good luck charms. The thunderstone tradition continued through the early modern period, and you can still lower your insurance payment today if you provide proof of a thunderstone in your home. Just kidding, please don't do that. Number 5. Clovis and archaic points in the United States. People have lived in the United States for at least 13,000 years, and these early arrivals hunted big game like mammoth with huge spears. The most famous of these are Clovis points, beautifully and intricately made spear tips from about 13,000 years ago. Clovis points, and later but still early Folsom and archaic points, are often found in more recent archaeological sites, meaning that people found these points in the past, brought them home, and then were discovered a second time by archaeologists today. For example, this Clovis Point found near Chevelon Ruin in Arizona was made 13,000 years ago. Then it sat unnoticed for 12,000 years before it was found and reworked by someone at a pueblo, which was then found again 1,000 years later by researchers from Northern Arizona University. Elsewhere in the United States, archaeologists found numerous archaic points at Angel Mounds, Indiana, that are thousands of years older than the landscape around them. The authors think these points may have had ritual or ceremonial purposes, or have simply been collected for the same reason that people are drawn to artifacts today, a special connection to the past. By the way, I should mention that instances of collecting in the past are cool, but collecting today robs the artifact of its contextual information and is almost always illegal. Please take only photos. Number 6. Empress Helena. The first biblical archaeologist lived only a few centuries after Christ. Helena was an empress of the Roman Empire and the mother of Constantine the Great. After Constantine converted to Christianity, he tasked Helena with acquiring important Christian relics like the true cross, crucifixion nails, and the holy tunic. According to tradition, she toured the Holy Land and brought back numerous relics that are still important to Christianity today. Number 7. Shang Dynasty, China. During the Shang Dynasty from 960 to 1279 CE, Chinese scholars and officials took an interest in ancient artifacts from as far back as the Shang Dynasty, some 2,000 years prior to the Shang Dynasty. While most of their interest was focused on finding relics for use in state rituals, the absolutely brilliant scientist and statesman Shen Kuo focused on quantitative and question-driven research that was remarkably similar to modern archaeology. Please feel free to add to this list in the comments, and thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe to Poopy Archaeology for more videos about the past.